PM announces additional BKM cash aid for Malaysians. Explore adjacent industries for long-term sustainability. 78 fully recovered pilgrims arrive safely in Makkah. Those are the headlines for tonight. I'm Lorenzo Isaac and this is TVS Nightline. The government has approved additional cash relief of 100 ringgit for the B40 households and 50 ringgit for single individuals to ease their financial burden. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said these measures were taken amid the rising cost of living and the escalating prices of goods ahead of the Hari Raya Aidiladha celebration. He said the cash payout was on top of Phase 2 of Bantuan Keluarga Malaysia PKM assistance involving 1.1 billion ringgit, where each recipient would receive 400 ringgit according to their category of eligibility. They will receive the payments in stages from June 27 onwards, involving an allocation of 1.74 billion ringgit.
Mengambil kira cabaran kos sara hidup dan kenaikan harga barangan makanan kebelakangan ini, kerajaan mengambil keputusan untuk menyediakan bantuan tunai tambahan kepada golongan B40 sebanyak RM100 untuk golongan isi rumah dan RM50 untuk golongan bujang.
The payout will benefit close to 8.6 million recipients, comprising 4 million households as well as 1.2 million unmarried senior citizens and 3.4 million single individuals. The recipients will receive their cash aid, which will be credited to their bank accounts between June 27 and July 5th. For recipients without bank accounts, the payment will be made on June 27 via Bank Simpanan National branches. Ismail Sabri said BKM was a direct cash assistance initiative announced in the 2022 budget to benefit the B40 group. Under BKM, 8.6 million recipients and households will receive cash aid up to 2,500 ringgit this year. Sarawak's oil and gas services and equipment (OGSE) companies have been told to explore adjacent industries to help secure their long-term sustainability in tandem with the energy transition that is seeing oil and gas majors shift to renewable energy and cleaner fossil fuels. Sarawak's Deputy Minister of Energy and Environmental Sustainability, Dr. Hazlan Abang Hipni, said sustainability, especially in the green energy industry, will be the main focus of the development agenda of Sarawak.
Hence, he said Sarawak is focusing and committing a lot of effort towards greener sources of energy such as hydro, solar and hydrogen, leveraging on the state's natural resources of over 300 rivers, as well as regular rainfall, abundant sunshine and natural gas. Dr. Hazlan was speaking at the Sarawak OGSE Roadshow 2022, jointly organized by Sarawak Economic Planning Unit (EPU) and Malaysia Petroleum Resources Corporation (MPRC), which he officiated in Kuching today. Over 300 delegates attended the first day of the Sarawak OGSE Roadshow 2022, which is being held as part of a series of OGSE roadshows conducted around Malaysia to promote the OGSE blueprint and its initiatives available to benefit OGSE companies. The OGSE blueprint contains 31 initiatives, of which 21 initiatives have been operationalized since the launch of the OGSE blueprint in April 2021. The second day of the Sarawak OGSE Roadshow 2022 will continue on the 23rd of June 2022, with closing remarks and closing keynote to be delivered by Datuk Patinggi Tan Sri Abang Johari Tun Openg, Premier of Sarawak, and Datuk Sri Mustafa Muhammad, Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Economy, respectively.
78 Malaysian Hajj pilgrims who tested positive for COVID-19 have safely arrived in Makkah in time to join others who arrived earlier to fulfill the fifth pillar of Islam. Only 19 of them are left in quarantine until their results stated that they are free from the virus as a prerequisite to travel to the Holy Land. Head of the Malaysian Hajj delegation, Datuk Sri Said Saleh Said Abdul Rahman, disclosed that the Saudi Arabian government requires all pilgrims to undergo swab tests for COVID-19 72 hours prior to their flight. However, Lembaga Tabung Haji advised pilgrims to do the test 56 hours before departure. This has led to 120 pilgrims being unable to continue their journey until they recovered fully. Even so, Lembaga Tabung Haji stated that contingency plans are planned for those who tested positive so long as there are flights available. The Saudi government has set the last flight for the Hajj season on July 3rd to ensure all 14,306 Hajj pilgrims can continue with their pilgrimage. Said Saleh advised them not to expose themselves to any gathering before the PCR tests. So far, all Malaysian Hajj pilgrims were in good health and no critical cases were reported. Most cases involve respiratory complications and skin problems due to the dry and hot weather, and only a few required treatment at the hospital. Soon, all households in Sarawak will be connected with natural gas pipelines for cooking. Deputy Minister for Energy and Environmental Sustainability, Dr. Hazlan Abang Hipni, said works will begin in rural areas to solve the issue of expensive gas prices in the area, and it will be completed within the next 7 to 8 years.
Hazlan said the natural gas connection will be supplied by Petros in line with their sustainability policy. He said while the retail price of gas cylinders is around 28 ringgit currently, the price would increase fourfold if sold in the rural areas due to transportation issues. Therefore, he said the price of the gas can be maintained with the pipe connections.
Now the price of cylinder, even though it's $28, the standard is 28. But if somebody is in Baram, or in Kapit, or somewhere else, the price is 3 to 4 times. So with that pipe gas, nobody can increase the price. The problem is transportation. So most likely we will start somewhere in the periphery, in the rural areas, rural Delok, maybe at the same time, Kuching. Yeah, we're going to have 4 big plants, Kuching, Miri, Bintulu, and Sibu. Under Petros, untuk pipe gas.
He was speaking at a press conference after representing Premier Dato' Petinggi Abang Jaharitun Openg and the Sarawak Oil and Gas Services and Equipment OGSC Roadshow 2022 on Wednesday. Presently, only Miri has natural gas pipelines supplied to houses in the division, while gas pipes for households in Kuching, Sibu and Bintulu are planned in the near future.
Pedawan Municipal Council MPP is committed in the state government's call to be environmentally sustainable and reduce waste. Kota Sentosa Assemblyman Wilfred Yap said food outlet operators especially are told to reduce single-use food packaging and recycle their used cooking oil.
And these are some of the initiatives taken by the council. So this one is asking people to stop using styrofoam food containers. Hentikan penggunaan bekas makanan polystyrene. So I think the polystyrene, you people know, right? The white colored one. Because that one is very environmentally damaging. Okay, so, and then another one is this used cooking oil. So, minyak masak terpakai. So, apa yang mereka selalu buat, minyak masak terpakai, it goes into the drain. So, we are trying to ask people to actually recycle it and make our environment more sustainable, more environmentally friendly.
He said such initiatives are in line with the state government's green economy approach.
And this is also in line with what our Premier has said, right? Our Premier talks about a green economy. Our Premier talks about sustainable development goals. Okay, so when you talk about sustainable development goals, these are minor steps. These are micro steps taken by the individual councils to actually complement the bigger picture, the macro picture.
The locations for 7 new border control posts for the General Operations Force GOF in Sarawak will be finalized in the near future. Inspector General of Police Tan Sri Akril Sani Abdullah Sani said in order to reach a consensus on the location of the posts along the Kalimantan-Sarawak border, police had also obtained the views of Sarawak Premier Tan Sri Abang Johari Tun Openg.
According to Akril, the allocation to build the new border control post has also been approved by the government and it should be spent this year. He added that the post will also provide basic police services, such as a place to lodge police reports for residents living in the area. He was speaking to reporters after paying a courtesy call on the Premier of Sarawak at Wisma Bapak Malaysia today. Commenting further, Akril said police were also in discussion with the Sarawak government to build border patrol roads to enable authorities such as the GOF to conduct patrols. Meanwhile, commenting on the strength of personnel in Sarawak, he said a new GOF battalion in Sri Aman would be open to reinforce membership and control in the state. The GOF battalion in Sri Aman is currently in its final stages and will bolster control in Sarawak once positions are filled.
Coming up right after the break, recruiting foreign workers on abandoned projects. National Art Gallery reopens after 2 years. Right here on TVS Nightline. Stay tuned. Welcome back. The government has been asked to focus on efforts to recruit foreign workers to expedite stalled or abandoned development projects in Sarawak. Deputy Minister in the Premier's Department, Corporate Affairs and Sarawak Public Communication Unit, Dato' Abdullah Saidol said the people have raised concerns over unfinished projects that were announced 2 to 3 years ago, especially projects in rural areas. He said if this matter is not resolved immediately, affected rural communities will become frustrated. He was speaking to reporters after opening the Tabung Ekonomi Gagasan Anak Sarawak Tegas 10th Anniversary Road Tour at the Mintangoro Community Hall on Wednesday. The government will maintain the subsidy of 4 billion ringgit for cooking oil in 1 kilogram packets allocated for this year. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said the subsidy, which began in June 2007, was provided by the government only for that 1 kilogram cooking oil packed in polybags, priced at 2 ringgit 50 cents each compared to the real market price of 9 ringgit each, and for the consumption of Malaysian families from the B40 group.
Meanwhile, he said the government spent 2.2 billion ringgit last year and 500 million ringgit in 2020 to provide the cooking oil subsidy. Ismail Sabri also announced that the subsidy for cooking oil in bottles of 1 kilogram, 2 kilogram, 3 kilogram and 5 kilogram will be stopped from July 1st, as it was a temporary measure introduced by the government in August 2021 to help the people during the pandemic. He said the subsidy was initially given for 3 months at a cost of 55 million ringgit per month and was extended until now. At the same time, Minister of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Dato Sri Alexander Nantalinggi said the supply of subsidized cooking oil in bottles and polybags will continue to be monitored to ensure the prices remain under control without any variation. He said enforcement would also be intensified to prevent losses in the cooking oil distribution system. Nanta said his ministry would also actively advocate for consumers to understand the situation and help limit the purchase of subsidized cooking oil in 1 kilogram packets.
The National Art Gallery reopened today after having been closed for 2 years since August 2020 for upgrading and renovation works. Tourism, Arts and Culture Minister Datuk Sri Nancy Shukri said the upgrading and renovation project with an allocation of 4 million ringgit channeled by the ministry was fully completed last March.
Dan ini di antara daya tarikan kita untuk menarik minat mereka. So, sudah tentu saya menjangka pelancong-pelancong akan ramai datang dan saya mengharapkan pihak Balai Seni menggunakan pejabat kita di luar negara untuk terus secara aktif mempromosikan aktiviti seperti ini.
Nancy also commented that the Nusa exhibition will be held for 3 years and the curatorial team of the National Art Gallery is ready with the rotation of works in the exhibition space to increase the public access to the collection. In another development, she said the ministry encouraged more local artistic talents, especially sculptors, to showcase their artwork in public hotspots. Meanwhile, visitors to the exhibition expressed their satisfaction with the reopening.
Pertama sekali tahniah kepada Balai Seni Negara kerana buka balik dan merancakkan lagi seni di Malaysia. Bagi saya sangat-sangat baguslah sebab kita menanti-nantikan pembukaan ini.
Gembiralah sebab dapat peluang untuk artis macam saya ni untuk mulakan pameran untuk selepas PKP lah. Lagi banyak seni-seni yang dapat dipamerkan di Balai Seni. Pembukaan Balai Seni ni nanti insya-Allah boleh membawa ramai lagi insya-Allah turis-turis kan daripada overseas kan.
Gallery. I'm very happy that National Gallery is reopened. I am here, I live in Malaysia, I am Russian, and I'm happy that National Gallery reopened again after 2 years and a half, yes, because I have a project with National Gallery 7 years ago, 5 years ago, so it's very important for me.
Okay lah, pasal dah 2 tahun dia tak ada apa-apa aktiviti, so tiba-tiba ada kan, so agak meriah lah. Kan, jarang ada macam ni. Pembaharuan dari segi dalaman tu memang ada kan. Dan kita pun tengok karya-karya yang baru datang pun dia fresh lagi kan.
Industry players in Malaysia spent 2.97 billion ringgit on environmental protection expenditure in 2020, according to the Survey of Environmental Protection Expenditure 2021. Department of Statistics Malaysia Chief Statistician Datuk Seri Muhammad Uzair Mahidin said during this period, industry players in Malaysia face a challenging business environment. He said this was mainly due to the implementation of the Movement Control Order MCO in an effort to curb the spread of COVID-19. Based on the Environmental Protection Survey Report 2021, he said the operating expenditure remained dominant with a share of 74.4%, whereas 25.6% was spent on capital expenditure. Pollution management top expenditure at 2,103.7 million ringgit or 70.8%, followed by waste management at 766.8 million ringgit or 25.8% and environmental assessment and charges at 67.2 million ringgit or 2.3%. Muhammad Uzair said the manufacturing sector was the main driver for the environmental protection expenditure with a share of 80.1%. At the same time, Muhammad Uzair said the pandemic has resulted in an increase in the environmental protection expenditure for the waste treatment and disposal subsector with an expenditure of 162.7 million ringgit from 155.1 million ringgit in 2019, growing by 4.9%.
Love.
Now on to some global affairs. Singapore has confirmed its first case of monkeypox and the first cases reported in the region. Singapore Health Ministry said on Tuesday that the case is an imported case who tested positive on June 20th. Similarly, South Korea reported its first two suspected cases of monkeypox virus in the country on Wednesday.
The patient is a 42-year-old British man who works as a flight attendant and had flown in and out of Singapore around mid-June. He is reported to be in stable condition and currently warded at the National Centre for Infectious Diseases in Singapore. 13 close contacts of the man were identified as of Tuesday, and all will be placed under quarantine for 21 days since their last contact with him. Contact tracing is ongoing for affected flights and for the duration of the man's stay in Singapore. The last monkeypox case detected in Singapore was 3 years ago. Meanwhile, South Korea is conducting diagnostic tests after the first two suspected cases of monkeypox were detected in the country on Wednesday. One of the people with suspected monkeypox, a foreign national who had reportedly shown potential symptoms since Sunday, entered the country on Monday and is currently under treatment in an isolation ward at a hospital in Busan. The other, a Korean citizen who showed symptoms while entering the country from Germany on Tuesday afternoon, has been admitted to Incheon Medical Center for treatment. More than 35 countries where monkeypox is not endemic have reported outbreaks of the viral disease, and confirmed cases now exceed 2,500.
A fire in Hong Kong has left 20,000 households without electricity on Wednesday amid hot and humid weather. The fire was caused by a cable bridge in the northern district, Yuen Long, which started at 7 p.m. local time on Tuesday. Local electricity supplier CLP Power said there had been no injuries in the incident. Power to essential services, including hospitals and railways, had been restored, but 2 more days would be needed to restore supply to the remaining 20,000 customers.
因為停晒電，停晒電要去第二啲揾其他地方。 因為太熱啦上邊，
風扇都開唔到，冷氣嗰啲咪就呢樣嘢咯。最衰嗰啲雪櫃啊，雪櫃嗰啲嘢死晒啊。
The city's government is requesting an investigation into the accident. The Education Bureau said dozens of schools in the area had lost power and classes were suspended on Wednesday. As dawn broke over the Cordillera Real of the Andes mountain on Tuesday, June 21st, hundreds of indigenous Bolivians raised their hands towards the first rays of the morning sun to welcome the AYMARA New Year 5530. The celebrations began at dawn in cold temperatures as followers warmed to the first rays of the winter solstice sun.
Kichura alwatan ha ustatawa ofrenda baja pachamamataki pachatataki como inti tatatak paximami tataki energía solar hichuru 5530 marana hichuru asiguaitana ukamara que taqapachmainitaki churu kan sartana neha taqachamampi valorampi energía hichuru qatok awaitan taqapachmaini.
Indigenous authorities started a bonfire and made offerings to Pachamama, or Mother Earth, and Father Sun in search of a bountiful crop and good health during the ancestral ceremony in El Alto. The AYMARA believe Father Sun, or Tanta Inti, gives his warmth to earth on the new year, heralding the onset of spring. In pre-Hispanic America, native people depended much on agriculture, and many of their rites were aimed at obtaining the god's blessing to ensure an abundant crop. Learn the secret of an excellent student, SPM's 2021 top scorer Muhammad Zulhanis Muhammad Fadzli, and the early days of Berita Nasional Malaysia Bernama News with content producer Hilmi Ashley on Sejahtera Asia tomorrow with hosts Juzak Lan and Jessica Chung 7:30 a.m. on TVS Astro Channel 122 and My Freeview. See the world closer with TVS as we bring you the latest news updates both locally and internationally. Just a click away by heading onto our official website at www.tvstv.my or follow us on our social media platforms. That's all the time we have for TVS Nightline. I'm Lorenzo Isaac. Good night.